Hello, everybody, and welcome back into Gamecock Central. My name is Kendall Smith, joined alongside of the man himself, Collyn Taylor. Everybody give him a big shout out, a big congratulations. He is now a grandfather. Collyn, congratulations. Your dog Wrigley just had puppies. How does it feel to be a granddad? Do you have a granddad name? Like Pop Pop
No.
or Papa?
The dogs usually just squeal at me more than anything. So my back and my knees have felt like I've been a granddad for probably 3 or 4 years. So it's nice to actually have the name now to go along with it. So there's 7. I am the proud granddad of 7 golden doodle puppies. So it's where we are right now.
That is incredible. We just need to get you a little mug that says proud granddad so you can sip your coffee on the front porch while admiring your lawn work every morning. I think that is the next thing on my to-do list. But Collyn, the next thing on South Carolina baseball's to-do list is Georgia. They are heading up to Athens this weekend. Their first SEC game of the year is on Friday against Georgia. They'll play them Saturday and Sunday as well. And this is really interesting because we have seen pretty much dominant performances from South Carolina throughout the start of the season. They're 17-1 heading into this series, but kind of the caveat that we've put on everything is that, yes, this South Carolina team has been very good, but they haven't played an SEC opponent yet. And when you go play within the conference, things are much, much different. So to start things off, Collyn, how confident are you feeling in South Carolina as they head into SEC play?
It's cautious optimism. If you're a South Carolina fan and someone that's watched this team through the first 4 weeks of the season, you're seeing some positive trends, pitching wise, especially. This is a pitching staff that's lived up to the billing through the first 4 weeks. It's an offense that's taken some really good at bats, hitting for a ton of power, obviously, and a group that has a chance to do some damage in the league. But it's one thing to do it against Bethune-Cookman and a Clemson pitching staff that's top heavy right now, and a Penn staff that's good but not deep like you'll see in the league. And it's another thing to go to Georgia and do it. It's another thing to do it against Missouri and Mississippi State and LSU and Florida and these teams that are going to be in national title contention. So yes, there's a lot of cautious optimism, but you've seen enough good trends, and they've demolished more often than not the teams that they've played, which is what you need to do when you played this schedule for South Carolina.
You said they might have the opportunity to do some damage in the SEC. I know this is extremely early to be asking you this question, but what do you think realistic expectations are for South Carolina in conference play this year?
Yeah, 500 or better, I think, is a realistic expectation. This is a team with the pitching to be in more games than they're not in. So you feel pretty good about the ability to get to 15 league wins, and anything over that puts you in contention to be a regional host. That's just how the conference is operated. And it helps that you're facing a Georgia team that's not projected to be a great team in the SEC. It helps that you're going into a Missouri team that's been up and down. And for as much as you can ease into SEC play, it helps here. You're not facing an LSU or Florida or Vanderbilt early until I think week 4. So you feel pretty good about where South Carolina is, and expectations should be 15-15. And then anything over that puts you in, like I said, contention to potentially be a top 16 seed in the NCAA tournament.
And no matter who you play in the SEC, especially when you play them on the road, you never know what's going to happen. And that's the thing about baseball. I mean, it just depends on the day. That's why you play these series type of games. It depends on, how hot the pitcher is that day, how well the offense is doing, if you can get the bats going. But in terms of Georgia, they're 13-4 right now heading into this series against South Carolina. What's the scouting report on the Bulldogs, Collyn?
It's a dangerous, dangerous team. This is an offense that's hitting for a ton of power. It's an offense with 2 guys hitting over 500 4 weeks into the year, with a pretty significant sample size to pair with it. And it's a pitching staff that has 2 really dynamic Friday and Saturday starters. If you're South Carolina, that's your biggest fears, those 2, Woods and Sullivan, who will start the first 2 games of the series with some gaudy numbers. And it's a South Carolina pitching staff that feels good about its chances against this Georgia lineup, the question has to be now, can you chase those starters early? More than likely, you're playing a doubleheader on Saturday, given their rain on Friday night in Athens. But Georgia's bullpen's not been good this year. So can you get to the bullpen? Can you take advantage and chase these starters and get to them? And this is a Georgia staff that's given up some home runs. So, and for those of you who haven't been to Georgia, that right field fence is short. There's a short porch out there. So you have some left-handed power. Can you get there? Can you chase those starters? And the long-winded way to say two really good starters at against South Carolina for Georgia. A dynamic offense that can hit for some power, but the weakness through the first 17 games has been that bullpen and the lack of a true third starter if you're Georgia.
Real quickly before we get out of here, we've talked about South Carolina's pitching, and they have done really well up until this point in the year. And the one name that we talked about a lot during the preseason was Will Sanders. And it's kind of shocking to say this, but Will Sanders has not been his best to this point in the year. What do you think it's going to take for him to kind of get back on that track that he was on last season?
He's just got to get his fastball right. He's shown the ability with that slider and that changeup / splitter that he throws. He's shown the ability to get some swings and misses there. Next, it's about locating the fastball and making that pitch a little bit tougher to hit, tougher to square up, because when he has gotten hit, it's been hard contact. It's been barrels. Teams are finding the barrel against him more often than not with his fastball. That's the pitch that's getting dinged. So if you will, find a way to get that fastball to a point where it's not getting hit as hard. And then you can pair that with a really good slider with some other good breaking stuff. And if you continue to do that and you're throwing with the velocity you're throwing, you're throwing with some of the spin rates on those breaking pitches that you're throwing, you're really tough to hit, and you can work your way through an order, 2 or 3 times. So that's the big thing. If you're Will, and there's optimism that he's going to figure it out. He's a smart kid. He's a really good pitcher. And if you do that, this pitching staff gets even more dangerous when you factor in Noah Hall and Jack Mahoney and James Hicks and like Jersey back and some of the other guys they have in this wealth of arms that they're bringing back.
I think he'll be just fine. He's proven in the past that he's able to handle it. So we expect that this year as well. And, things are just getting started for the South Carolina team. Again, just kicking off SEC play on Friday against Georgia. And then they'll play a whole bunch of SEC teams throughout the rest of the season. Some non-conference games sprinkled in there during the midweek as well. And Collyn Taylor will be there for all of it. Collyn, I do have to say, we kind of slayed today with the green in honor of St. Patrick's Day. I can't
pop off, girl boss.
We popped off today. Very proud of us. Very fashionable. I don't think I'll see anybody on Gamecock Central until after St. Patrick's Day. You'll probably write to them, but I don't know if they'll see your face on a video. Yeah. So happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody watching. Be safe, have tons of fun, and be sure to keep up with the South Carolina baseball team. They're playing this weekend. The women's basketball team also in action this weekend as well. First round of the NCAA tournament on Friday at 2 p.m. against Norfolk State. And shout out to Michael Sauls. He's coming back in town, one of our former employees.
Ballsy.
Gamecock Central, who always came on our trips with me and Collyn. Anyways, we have less than a minute until we're kicked off this Zoom because we don't have the extended Zoom. We have the free option. So with that being said, thank you everybody for tuning in. Follow us at Gamecock Central and keep up with us on GamecockCentral.com. Thank you, Collyn. He's Collyn Taylor. I'm Kendall Smith. We'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.